come down to the level of your capacity, and we want to strengthen your capacity. That's why we're having this session today. So I can see some of the response of the participants. I see someone say, oh, she's joining all the way from Ibejuleki. Please, let's keep it coming. Let's keep our comments coming. I can just to have you join us. I can see Sheila from Slug in England. I can see Samuel from Ogba. I can see Thank God from Ikeja. Now, I really like this because it's a diversified audience, and this helps our facilitators know the caliber of people that they're speaking with. It also helps them to that will be relevant wherever you're operating your business from. So I want to celebrate you for joining us this morning. This is a very good decision that you have decided to embark on, and I can assure you that every of your expectations would be met. So who is willing to share their expectation with us? Samuel, God, why exactly are you here? When you saw this clinic flyer, what jumped out to you? Who wants to go first? Stanley, Caleb, Sheila, you can put that in comments. While we wait for others to join us. Are we shy? Okay, Uche from Ikorodu, welcome. Good to have you. Good to have you. So I think while we're waiting for everyone, we can get a word from our convener. Star, is there a particular reason why you organized this session? I'm sure that you did not just organize it because there was nothing to do, because it was fancy to have. I'm sure maybe with your one-on-one conversation, you saw the need for this. So maybe just so that the participants on this call can get a feel of your heartbeat and what you desire for them as they grow in their businesses. Over to you, sir.
All right, thank you so much, Stella. That was very smart. That was very smart. I'm not sure if that was in the agenda, but it's very smart. Clearly, I have a heartbeat. For those who know me, my area of passion and expertise is being in the area of wealth creation, real estate, and of course, even business growth. By every standard, I'm also a management consultant. Do you understand? So, but there are people whose primary focus is management consulting, and that's the area where our speakers are going to be sharing from. That's the platform from which we're going to be sharing from. As a person, and having interacted with quite a lot of people in our communities, I see that there's a huge gap between where they are right now, where they really love to be. And I know fully well that for those who are primarily in business, I know that those of us in the communities who are professionals and who are looking to transit into owning our own businesses in the future. And it's important to start learning, you don't manufacture weapons in the battlefront, all right? Otherwise, you become a casualty. So I also figure that it's also going to be very beneficial for professionals, career people who are looking to transit into business ownership. But more importantly, for those who are already in business, somehow we create businesses, and we started business with the hope of freedom. And unfortunately, we unconsciously have created a job for ourselves, and then we feel trapped, so we don't have an idea of how we can structure the business so that the business doesn't revolve around us. We've lost sense of how to build brands. We've lost sense of how to really scale and multiply. Nobody wants to start anything and keep it small. Everybody wants to grow, right? And in an economy like Nigeria, where the prices of goods and services is skyrocketing. I mean, it's the case all over the world, right? The price of goods and services are rising astronomically, but income is not rising to match that. We need new dimensions of wisdom, and things are changing so rapidly. Situations and circumstances are evolving. Technology is no longer at the same level. So those are key reasons why we decided to put these two powerhouses together. So each of them is enough bouquet. To now put them together is explosion, right? So I know that's why I'm not speaking. I don't trouble myself. I don't come and I respect myself very well. I respect myself too much. to come and be speaking when these two people are speaking. So it would be too dangerous. So I want each and every one of us to brace up for impact. I note them one-on-one. I've been following them, and these guys are powerful. I can tell you that. And they are building businesses themselves. So they are not just teaching theories themselves. Do you understand? So some of them, even two of them, I know they sit on different boards and they advise multi-billionaires, at different levels, and they too are building businesses, apart from their own consulting practice. So I am very confident, very, very confident when this. Now let me also share the background, the backstory. We were planning Winning in Business series, all right, which is every Tuesday this month. And then one of my team members said, "Sir, why don't we do a business clinic, for Tribe of Wealthy Origin?" And I said, "Is that not too much? I'm hosting Mega Housing Summit this month, Winning in Business series. I'm a pastor, I'm doing this, I'm hosting that, I'm coordinating this. Is that not too much?" He said, "You don't need to speak now. Look at some of your friends." I said, "Hey, so who are the people?" He mentioned Eizu, he mentioned Solesi. I said, "Put it baton complete." So it was not my idea. I said, I'll just reach out to them immediately. So that was how it started. So we had Winning in Business series in May/June. And I had some of my friends in the United States, along with a dear friend of mine also in Nigeria, facilitate. And we cover some critical functional areas, functional components of businesses, like HR, operations, marketing, and a host of other things, And then this particular session that is going on right now is also touching on legal, touching on, sales. Please, can you mute your devices? So we're touching on tax saving strategies. Last week, Tuesday, was explosive. We had a session on sales, for scattered ground, declared war on poverty. It was just something extraordinary. So when that team member of mine said we should, and I must give credit. This is to let you know that it's not everything I do that is comes from me. Sometimes you just say, that guy is very, very smart. No, he has smart people, even smarter people than himself around him. And so that was what inspired this. And we felt we should bring this out to the community and for everyone who would love to be. I also note these gentlemen that we have brought to share with us also have very, very strong communities themselves. When we say they are powerhouses, they are not kidding, they're not joking. So if you paid $1,000 each to attend this program, is nothing compared to the value. I'm convinced on that. You will have practicable insight or what you are going to start doing immediately. That's the way these guys are, all right? And if you have not been thinking well before, it will straighten your head to help you start thinking well. All right. So without further ado, I hand over to you, Stella, to do the introduction. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. That was such a very brilliant and wonderful insight. Okay, so right now we want to welcome our first speaker. He's here with us, Mr. Eizu Uwaoma. He'll be speaking to us on branding and structuring your business for growth. But before we welcome him officially, I also want us to read his profile so we know the caliber of powerhouse that is going to be speaking to us today. I hope we have our pen, our paper, and our hearts are ready. Remove every form of distraction. Every distraction right now, we cast them away. Please begin to cast them away. Turn off that TV, whatever it is that will distract you. You can close the kitchen door so that the aroma of breakfast will not distract you. So here we go. Eizu Uwaoma is a strategy, corporate restructuring, and management consulting expert. He is the founder of Xavier. He sits on multiple boards, co-founding and advisory capacities. He is a graduate of mathematics and he holds 3 master's degrees, a PMP, which is a project management certification, and a PhD in view, with over a decade of experience in strategy and corporate restructuring. He's also a contributing writer on Business Day, a regular thought leader guest on Arise, and an author
We're not hearing you.
Someone should tell her that she's muted. She should just unmute herself.
You're muted.
Oh my God.
So
Sorry, we didn't hear me at all.
Arise News.
Oh, okay. Okay, so let me just take you from the top. Mr. Eizu Uwaoma is the founder of
I think you have
Xavier.
a back in the background.
Okay, is it better now? Mr. Eizu Uwaoma is a strategy and corporate restructuring expert. He's the founder of Xavier. He sits on multiple boards on co-founding and advisory capacities. He's a graduate of mathematics and he holds 3 master's degrees, a project management certification, and a PhD in VIEW with over a decade experience in strategy and corporate restructuring. He is also a contributing writer on Business Day, a regular thought leader on Arise News, and an author and a weekly radio show host. With a digital round of applause, please let's make welcome Mr. Eizu Uwaoma as he takes us on branding and structuring for business growth. Thank you.
Hi guys. Mic check 1, 2. Can you guys hear me pretty well?
Yes, we can.
Yes, we can.
How are we doing today? Interesting stuff. So I probably just can I know how much time I have? How long do I need to speak for?
So each of you are doing 40 minutes, and then we'll take 20 minutes to entertain questions for both of you. We may extend it to 30 minutes, so that's because I know the questions will flow.
Absolutely. You know, I sent you a message. I don't know if you saw the message just now, Mr. Clement. It's probably only you that I know that can get me and Ezekiel in one room at the same time. That's like having Bruce Wayne and Batman in the same room. That's like having Clark Kent. I don't know if you guys know superheroes like that. Clark Kent and Superman in one room, basically. Peter Parker and Spider-Man in one room at the same time. Basically, cut from the same cloth. So you're the only one that can do that, actually. And it comes from credibility and in short notice as well. So thank you for having us.
Thank you.
I was also chatting Ezekiel now. I'm like, oh, why don't we just make this a fireside chat? Maybe you want us to throw that open because we're both very knowledgeable in the 2 different terrains that you want us to speak on. Like I like to say, if you're a writer, write kind of book you love to read. If you're a singer, you sing the kind of songs you want to listen to. So maybe can we turn, with your permission, can we turn this into a fireside chat? It's just disruptive. I just thought about it now. So we do 5 minutes, it chips in. I do 5 minutes, it chips in.
These are disruptors. I'm not surprised. Disruptors always disrupt. So
what do you think?
It's okay. It's okay by me.
I'm good.
Oh, okay.
Whatever.
Okay.
Yeah. Powerful. Since both of you are already on ground.
Yeah.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Let me show my face so that they can see me. People that are not talking anything. Okay, so go on, please. Just go on.
All right. So thanks once again.
Should we introduce?
Oh, yes, that just makes sense. Yes, absolutely. So go ahead. Yes, go ahead and introduce Ezekiel. Yes.
Okay. Let's make welcome Mr. Ezekiel Solesi. Let's listen to his brief profile. So when I tell you that something is brief, know that it's not so brief. But I'll try my best to make you free. Ezekiel Solesi is a prolific author, insightful speaker, and a serial entrepreneur, and a member of the prestigious Forbes Coach Council of Nigeria. Oh, sorry about that. Prestigious Forbes Coaches Council. He's the co-founder of Nature Gift Product Limited, a company that makes natural soaps from pawpaw, co-founder of Smith's Animation Studios, one of the top 2 animation companies in Nigeria. He's also the CEO of Limp Simple, an organization whose acronym means Life, Investing, Money, and Business Made Simple. The company has a mission to provide simplified technical, inspirational, and motivational information that would enable everyday people make deliberate improvements in their life and businesses. His activities as a speaker and facilitator spans over a variety of industry. He's also a business strategist, a consultant who has worked with over 2,400 businesses and also with some of the top companies in varying industries, helping them to improve revenue from the multi-million naira mark to the billion naira a year revenue mark. He has also worked as an executive business coach to a few A-list entrepreneurs, many of whom he has worked with to exceed 5 billion naira revenue mark. He currently hosts the Lim Simple Strategy Factory, a monthly strategy workshop for entrepreneurs looking to scale their businesses, which holds monthly. With a digital round of applause, let's make welcome Mr. Ezekiel Solesi. Thank you for joining
Thank you very much for having me here. Thank you. Thank you so much.
On a lighter note, I never heard that before. Digital applause. Interesting. All right, so let's deep dive. Ezekiel, strategy, structure, branding, scaling. I think that if we were to make this like an equation, we would say that those are like the variables that make success. If you can sort out those 4 things, I believe that you'll be fine, right? So sort of like almost like y is equals f of x. But then the X is now structure, scale.
Not all of us study mathematics, so
structure.
Very kind to us.
All right, branding. So let's save the theory of branding. I'd just like to make an illustration in terms of branding. So I'm working with a client of mine. He's an ex-Super Eagles player, right? We'll know him if we mention his name. He once played for Monaco. Monaco is by far one of the most expensive cities in the world. I think Monaco, Saint-Tropez, those are south side of France, you know, and he's bringing in champagne into Nigeria. He's bringing in champagnes from France. So everyone knows the culture, like champagnes are owned by French. French are the real owners of champagnes, you know, and he told me something really interesting. So we're trying to arrive at the price points, the selling price per unit of a bottle of champagne in Nigeria. So we now have to do cost accounting. And it hit me that the price of champagne, surprisingly now, an average champagne is expensive. I mean, the most expensive in the league of drinks. That there are champagnes where the bottle is more expensive than the drink. The bottle of the champagne is more expensive than the drink. So why am I driving with this? And it hit me that, so let me assume that the champagne is 200,000 naira in ShopRite. People buy it, right? People buy it. But what would happen if you took that champagne and you poured it in a Zobo nylon? Right? What would happen if you poured it in a Zobo nylon? People still buy it for that price, right? And I think that illustration sort of sums up what branding is, right? What branding is. So branding, in my own opinion, is deeper than just packaging. It's really what happens when you enhance value by appearance, by aesthetics, by consistency, by uniqueness, and more importantly, by identity. So if we were to break down the nucleus of what a brand is, right? Nucleus, like if you take an atom and you break it down, you see 3 elements in an atom. You see 3 particles in an atom, the proton, the neutron, and the electrons, right? Those are what makes an atom. Right. If you take your cell and break it down, you're going to see also like cytoplasm, nucleus, and all this type of thing. So if you take branding looks like a very bogus word, but if you want to understand branding, just open it up and you're going to see 3 elements in them. Uniqueness, easy to identify, and consistency. Whenever any of these 3 things is missing, you cannot have a brand. So we can always put names to it. What makes Apple Apple? What makes Mercedes-Benz? These are the most recognizable brands in the world. Benz, Coca-Cola, Apple, Jesus, right? When I say Jesus, I'm talking about the sign of the cross, not the white guy you have on your wall. That is not Jesus, right? Those are very recognizable identities. And what you find out in those 4 things is that they are unique. Those 4 or 5 examples is that they're unique, they're easy to identify, and they're consistent. Right. So I think that if you understand this on your journey to building your brand, because the next question you now have to ask yourself is, how do I make myself unique? Unique is an adjective. Funny enough, the word unique, if back to English, is the only adjective in the world that actually does not have a superlative. So sorry if you guys remember English, you would see that when they say big is an adjective. Superlative of big is bigger. Quick is an adjective, right? Adjective what describes something, right? Oh, that guy is big. Oh, superlative is bigger, or somebody's bigger. Quick, quicker. But unique is the only adjective that doesn't have a superlative. That means there's no such thing as uniquer or uniquest. The only word is actually strange. The only word that doesn't have that. Meaning that's how deep what a brand is. So you can't build a brand from copycats. You just can't build a brand from copycats. It has to be unique. So unique is to identify and consistent. Funny enough, it can almost go head to head sometimes with value itself. And I don't want us to make it versus. I think they're supposed to complement each other like yin yang, because I've also seen people build great brands without value, without anything tangible. In my opinion, I think that's a fraud. But people have learned to do that so perfectly well. I mean, so perfectly well. And there are very good examples of this, right? I don't want to mention names because now that's like me calling out fraudulent people. But then there are people who have built a brand without, there are people who we know that are so popular, then you now have to pause and ask yourself, well, what do they really do? You really can't figure out what they really do, but they are sometimes even rich and successful. So Ezekiel, I don't know what your thoughts are on sort of like this element. And is there anything I might have missed out on in terms of what the variables of a brand? Then we can now go into examples of great brands and what makes them great brands.
Well, nothing. I mean, I'm also taking notes. So. But I think that, I mean, the three factors that you talked about is critical. The unique, I mean, there has to be something about you. The way I always put it is that if you're a business, you have to be able to get people to move beyond buying your category to wanting you. Because if there's a reason for people to move from buying a phone to an iPhone, then people will be incentivized to want to pay the extra. If there's a reason for people to move from buying Gary to your brand of Gary, so, and that speaks to your uniqueness, right? Once you can figure out how, and essentially, strategy is essentially, figuring out how to establish your difference, because I mean, in an equilibrium market, nobody wins. The idea is that if you're trying to strategize, you're trying to get people to, in a sea of people, look at you and say, oh, I want that guy, for whatever reason, and sometimes the reasons might just be perceptive. I mean, for example, I tell people, there's a lot of design reasons why the iPhone is great, but most of us, what we remember here is that all your friends that have iPhones, there's a sense in which they behave like they made it to life. Did you notice that? There's a sense in which they behave like they made it to life. And, whether that's the major reason why people buy it, or not, but that is something big enough to be able to drive people in that direction. But, that's about it. I want you to finish this because I want to drive one short conversation around why I think people don't scale their businesses, right? But I want us to go straight into branding, and then I'll be able to drive that conversation too.
Okay, so it's funny you talked about Apple. Like I said, Apple is the poster boy. Apple is the poster boy for a great brand, and it is like what Coca-Cola was in the 20th century is what Apple is becoming in the 21st century. Very easy to identify, recognizable, and then more importantly, accept that Apple is the most premium of that brand story, right? And brand rubber from brands. I'm also going to say that brand rubber from brands. This conversation is supposed to take you on a journey to understanding how to build a brand, because if you understand how to, right, in production, right, operations and production management, there's what you call reverse engineering, where if Chinese guys are good with this, right? If Chinese guys want to copy, Chinese are the best copycats in the world. They are the best copycat. That's what they are good at. That's their brand, actually. Talk about brand. You think of China there's always there's always a Chinese version of anything great, Look at what's happening in the Nigerian market. But reverse engineering is you take something that works, right? That you want to copy it. So what you do is you dismantle it first, and then try to fix it back. So one of the key fundamental things to understand also in that brand, now remember we talked about uniqueness and consistent, is that brand rubber from brand. So let me give you a practical example, right? I'm wearing a wristwatch, right? It's an average wristwatch than a money wristwatch. It's not a Rolex, not anything like that. So let me assume that this wristwatch is, let me just assume it's 200K, right? And I want to sell it for 2 million, right? Without taking it back to the factory for them to enhance it to be worth 2 million. That means I don't want to sell it for 2 million because of the value, the quality of the watch. I want to sell it because of the perception. Remember, the only thing more important than what you'd ever sell is what you make the buyer believe that he's buying. Branding is a perception game, like Ezekiel rightly said. So I want to change the perception of this watch from 200K to 2 million naira. Stay with me. Without taking it back to the factory, without doing anything tangibly with it, because people don't know when to stop. People think that they will be better, their product will sell more if they enhance the product. Even in consulting, we do that all the time. We think that people will pay us more if we become more knowledgeable, right? But that's not always the case, because there are people who are more knowledgeable than us, who people are not paying more, right? And so there's a threshold. And once you get to that threshold, you know when to stop. That the addition of that, an addition value does not mean additional money, right? It's like an inverted U shape in a graph, like the classical inverted U shape of a graph will be law of diminishing return, right? You know, you add an input and then increases the value, you add an input, so the law of diminishing return happens, where it gets to a point where more extra value doesn't mean extra value doesn't mean extra worth, right? A good example of this, there's so many things in life that have that theory, inverted U shape, where you add increases, and it gets to a point where marginal value is equal to total value. That means that increased marginal value does not exactly mean increased total value, right? Sorry, it's a bit technical, it's getting mathematical, but stay with me in this. Intelligence does that as well. There are a lot of things that do that. Intelligence does that, hard work does that. The hard work, you need hard work to succeed. There's a level of hard work you need to succeed, where if you become more hardworking, does not mean you'll be more successful, right? The guy that does bricklayer has no value to, that's very hardworking guy. The guy that leaves his house by 5:30 a.m. and stays in Oshodi trying to get the boss. Branding, value and branding also has that. So remember, this watch is already a good watch. Making it a better watch does not mean that it's going to be better value. So what do I do? Remember, the concept is brand rubber from brand. So I'm going to increase the price of this watch, technically, right? Case study, without taking it back to the factory. See the things I'm going to do. Brand rubber from brands. It's still a 200K watch. I want to be selling for 2 million. So here's what I'm going to do. First of all, I'm going to do a photo shoot of this watch. And I'm going to get Kelechi Amadiobi or T.Y. Bello to do the photo shoot. And I'm going to make so much noise about Kelechi Amadiobi. Everybody who knows Kelechi Amadiobi knows that he's a legend in photography in Nigeria. The only person that comes close to him is T.Y. Bello, but they're not even in the same level. Those are like the Picassos, Michelangelos, and Leonardo da Vinci's of this. So notice, everybody says, oh, wow, this watch that T.Y. Bello is taking video photo. Matter of fact, there's a photo shoot of the photo shoots. You understand? There's a photo shoot of them taking photo of the watch. So there's buzz on it, right? Notice, it's 200K. The price is going up. Like Fadjo will say, yesterday's price is not today's price, right? Now, in the photo shoot, something else happens in the photo shoots. We're going to get DJ Copy and Davido to wear this watch in the photo shoots. So photo shoots value is increasing, right? You're doing a photo shoot with Davido and DJ Copy. And you know I'm using those two names, we know why. Brand rubber from brands. They're not just brands, they are perceived premium brands. They are Omo Baba Olowo brands, right? They are rich kids, right? They are the ones who know value. So notice now, once again, it's a photo shoot by Kelechi Amadiobi with Davido and DJ Copy wearing the wristwatch. And they are sitting down in a 2023 Mercedes-Benz Maybach. And we're going to do these photo shoots. And while we're doing the photo shoots, we're going to tell a whole story around it. This watch is limited edition. Now, this is the story. And there are only 20 of it made every year. And out of the 20, 4 has already been sold. Beyonce owns 1. Dangote owns 1. Do you guys see the mind game that we're playing? Brands rub off on brands. What is happening is I'm increasing the brand value by attaching it to other brand value, other brands. Like osmosis and diffusion literally happens. You know how magnet, you put two things together and they connect each other. A lot of things do that also. You know, poverty also rubs off, right? That's why they say if you're the fifth, you're around 5 poor people, check about it, you're about to be the sixth, right? A lot of things are infectious. So another concept, so I'm just throwing out fundamental concept of branding, that branding in itself can be infectious simply by who you attach yourself with, right? Who you attach yourself with, right? I mean, this is probably the only reason why the three of us are in one room together. That's incredible, right? These are three, with all sense of humility, are three brands in our industry: Clement, Eizu, Ezekiel. Brand driven from brands. Sure, you know that if you bring just a rookie consultant to be the fourth person, do you know that person's brand value automatically increases too? Brands rubber from brands. Ezekiel, I'd like to know what your thoughts are on the illustration.
I want to share a personal example. So I remember in 2011, I wanted to start this event in Abuja. And of course, not a lot of people knew me at the time. So I decided to do this event in Abuja. And I had this partnership with a group called Abuja Literary Society. So because they got the opportunity to use Transcorp. And so I was thinking of what would I call my event? So I realized then it was the Pan-Atlantic University. You know, it wasn't Pan-African University, it was Pan-Atlantic. They had this EDC, Enterprise Development Center of the Pan-Atlantic University at the time. And then also, you know, the central bank also had EDCs. So the EDC was not trademarked. So what I did was that I called my event EDC Abuja, Enterprise Development Conference Abuja. So I would put EDC Abuja live at Transcorp Hilton, and then I would put my logo, Lim Simple, really small, somewhere at the corner. And then I would just throw it out on Twitter. You know, we would have about 80 people in the room. I would show up in the room. My faces were not anywhere. I would show up in the room and I would say, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Lim Simple Enterprise Development. And I would look in their faces and I would realize that they are just realizing that it's Lim Simple and not Pan-Atlantic University. Right? In fact, we had a situation where the coordinator of the Pan-Atlantic University EDC in Abuja showed up for my event thinking that Lagos office is doing something that she's not aware about. Right? Wow. And, you know, as funny as it sounds, you know, from that event, I think a lot of good things happened for my career. From that event, I got a call from the presidency for one of the ministers to attend my event. I got a call. I did projects with, you know, Jonathan's government at the time. I did project with top businesses at the time, just because they would show up for the event. And you know, when they show up, I'm there, they are there. They can't go anywhere. So now I have 2 hours to prove that I am worth listening to. So sometimes being able to attach your brand in such a way, I think it was Peter Drucker that talks about it in his book, his 1984 book, Innovation and Entrepreneurship. He talked about the concept of creative imitation, right? Where you want to be able to, so sometimes as a business, you want to be able to look at, and I've seen businesses that I have worked with transform their revenue. I'm talking about transform their revenue by just imitating a brand and being able to transfer the goodwill that brand has to them, right? One of the clients that I was in real estate, they closed at 32 billion naira last year. So when the business started, it was a different name. Then they rebranded. And then, you know, in that meeting, you know, we talked about why don't you pick the brand color of one of the telecoms network. So he picked the brand color of one of the telecoms network. And we were very deliberate in projecting that brand color. And I'm telling you, like, this is a story of, they closed at 32 billion naira last year, you know, not too long ago. The company is maybe 4 years or 5 years now. Not too long ago, they were maybe scraping 1 billion, 2 billion, thereabouts. So sometimes being able to find a business that is doing so well, that has a lot of brand equity, and finding a way to be able to connect your business or connect yourself or connect your work, you know, whatever it is that you do, because I'm aware that some of us here are not, we're not we've not yet started our own businesses, per se. So, I mean, I think that is very, 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 very important to be able to think about brand that way, right? But is it okay? Can I talk for a few minutes now?
Can I ask a question?
Yeah, please.
It's somewhat reflecting my own views. I love this whole idea about creative imitation, brand drop up from brands, and all of those things. But how do you ensure that you are not being fraudulent? How do you ensure you are not being fraudulent? Because I mean, both of you already know what I stand for. So, and I can say this categorically. I don't want a situation where people show up for my program.
Yes.
I'm just saying, and then they'll be shocked that it is not what they thought. How do you get creative in your branding that you don't be perceived as fraudulent? Of course, you carry a lot of value. You understand what I'm talking about? So how do you do that balance? I just wanted to.
For me, the first thing first is that
I hope you understand where I'm coming from.
Yeah. So the first things first is that you can't copy everything that has a copyright.
Okay.
So that's the first thing. You want to be sure that whatever it is you're copying, they do not have an exclusive right to it. If they have an exclusive right, you don't even have to be wrong. They're going to come at you, and they're going to come at you significantly, right? The second thing, I think for me, and one of the reasons why we did the things that we did at the time was I knew for a fact that EDC was not copyrighted. So nobody had an exclusive right to it, right? And I knew that one of the things that I knew that if people showed up, if I could get people into the room, and fortunately, I'll be honest, I mean, we pulled our weight. I mean, we had like top level speakers. I'm talking about Harvard alumni, we had, in fact, somebody walked up to me after one of those events and said, you know what, it feels as though, because the person had just come off an event from the EDC, and said, you know what, I did get quite more value here than I got there. And in fact, I got an opportunity about a year and a half later. I was speaking at Civic Center alongside Mr. Bamkole. He used to be he's no longer now, he used to be is the coordinator or president or director of the Enterprise Women Program, and then we had a very light conversation about it. I think this must have been in 2013. Peter Bamkole, yes, that's his name. Yeah, Dr. Peter Bamkole, sorry, before somebody tells him that I'm annoying him. When somebody's a doctor, especially when they work for it, it's a serious matter. So for me, I think when you read, if you look at, for example, what's happening in business today, and you look at Instagram, Snapchat, or WhatsApp, Snapchat, or Instagram, TikTok, you would see that there's a lot of creative imitation going on of somebody saying, look, there's this process, and this process is not patented. If it's patented, I'm sure they would fight each other for it, whichever way it is. But I don't know what Eizu has to say.
I know that there's a place for ethically, copying or, ethically modeling what others are doing. That is, I understand that part. I mean, patterns are predictors of future, so it's always not out of place, to follow what is successful, what not necessarily what is trending, but what is proven to be true or what is proven to be productive, right? Most of the concepts that we are sharing here are things that others have done, and there's nothing new. There's no knowledge that we will share that is fresh. It's only different perspective, and the messengers that are also different. You understand what I'm talking about? So Paul Fo said that in his session with us 2 weeks ago. And I mean, just to say that, okay, there's nothing wrong in ethically copy, but I just felt we should draw that. We need to, increase that balance. Yeah.
Absolutely. I agree with you 100%. I had a book, I wrote a book about 10 years ago. Funny enough, I never really like think of myself as an author. And I'm sure you know the book, Exhibition Laws of Business. There are 21 laws in that business. And there was a reason why it was arranged. That it came back to my head now because yesterday I had a video show and I spoke about the laws of business. I hadn't spoken about it in a very long time, you know, and some just hit me that there was a reason why those laws were arranged in a particular order. There was it wasn't just 21 laws, but arranged in like purpose came before vision. Of course, purpose, your purpose that you now blew out of proportion with a bigger vision of that purpose, right? The law 4, branding. You know what came after law 4? Was character. Because you see, because that's where, and I said it when I started off, that it's a delicate balance. Because when that era where packaging is the synonym for branding is packaging, and they tell you to you know, aspire to perspire, you know, and then they tell you to package, right? You know, but credibility is important, right? Credibility is important. We see this all the time: what I ordered versus what I got. So, in my own opinion, if you copy someone, just take permission. Right, just take it. There's no complexity to that conversation. Is take permission, right? It just helps you. As big as Apple is, right? Someone was saying that Apple and Google, right? Google pays Apple, is it $12 billion every year, just so they can be the default search engine, right? Default search engine on Apple. You know, when you just type anything on your browser, it's google.com. But if people like that can pay that amount of money, then it just means that people should respect people's IP, intellectual property. But I think moving on, I think we're having like 10 minutes on this branding, but then we can move on, then we'll flip it. So Ezekiel leads the way, and then I just sort of support. Guys, are you getting value? Are you getting value for this? You can just go to the chat section and let us know if you are. Right. So another thing, so I remember we're unpacking the reverse engineering of what branding is. Another thing that makes a great brand, and this will be easy to remember, is what I like to summarize in an acronym called STEPS. STEPS. Easy to remember, steps doing something, right? So steps to steps, right? For you to build a great brand, you must satisfy 5 steps, which are coincidentally or metaphorically STEPS. S is story. To everything you see that is a great brand, especially intentional brands, you know, sometimes people become accidental brands. And I've always said that accidental brands don't last. And we've seen this all the time. Nigeria, social media has shown us a lot of accidental brands. Don't forget that once upon a time, somebody was carrying bread on her head, right? And someone took a picture of her, and then all of a sudden she became a model. So where is that model now? What's remember her name?
Oladipupo something.
Oladipupo. That's an accidental brand. She became a brand overnight, but it doesn't last, right? Because you're not intentional. Like I like saying, anyone can fall off a ladder by accident. Nobody climbs a ladder by accident, right? I mean, and our world has a lot of accidental fluke, you know, and that's why also entertainment shows you a lot of that. You know, you do a song, something happens around that period, then it just blew, right? I mean, if anybody had done a song with Imole, what's his name now? The guy that passed on.
Mohbad.
Mohbad. If anybody had done this a week with Mohbad, no matter how whack that song is, it would have been a hit. That's an accidental brand, right? So a lot of things do that to you. But if you're going to be intentional, the first thing you must do is intentionally begin to craft your story. You see how I was talking about the watch and I told you a whole story end to end. So great brands, right? Yeah, like LP, yes, the LP, yes, that's another accidental LP. I mean, the guy sold units of merchandise with LP 71, 72, but where is it now, you know? So the first thing is, what is your brand story, right? Once again, we're back to the most recognizable brand case studies. What makes the Jesus story so powerful is the story behind it. You know, this guy comes, he's born out of like something that's not the normal, right? You know, divine, you know, Mary, depending on what part of the equation you're in. But you see, there's a deep story to it, right? There's also a lot of mystery. One of the things you can do for your brand is to tie your brand in mystery. Mystery sells. There are 3 things that sells in this generation: mystery, controversy, right? And I'm just being on a lighter note, sex, right? Those 3 things sell any given time, right? Any given time. You know, mystery. I was just telling somebody that I don't know if everybody knows that there's a part of the Bible that didn't talk about Jesus Christ. I think from 13 to 30, there was no account anywhere in the Bible of Jesus Christ. You're a pastor, so I hope I'm not jumping into your part. But there's a fact, there's no part of the Bible that talks about Jesus, I think from 13 to 30. You see that mystery, right? You know, because sometimes people don't know that for it to be a brand, less is more. Less is more, right? Less is more. Let's not forget that one of the things that made Apple, that gave Apple its grand entrance with the iPhone. You know, the Apple was almost Apple, what used to be called Macintosh. You know, the original name was Macintosh, right? At some point, they started to fall drastically. They had kicked Steve Jobs out. What resuscitated Apple was the iPod and then the iPhone, right? People don't know the iPod is, like, some generations don't know what iPod is. But iPhone was when they just decided to put a SIM card in an iPod. That's my own opinion. The iPhone was an iPod with a SIM card, right? To stay with me about brand stories, right? One of the most powerful things about mystery, or less is more. Less is more. Always remember it. And matter of fact, for we who sometimes we like to thin slice people, you walk into a place, you can tell how much money you have simply by how much you dress, right? You know, I mean, I have a client of mine that I just jokingly chatted, and I said, this guy, I don't understand. Did you go to the real estate guy? I said, did you go to sites with Agbada? Like, how? I need to understand what's going on here, right? You know, the richer you get, the simpler you actually become. If you hung around very rich people, you see how simple they are. You see all that whole bling bling lifestyle is new money, is Elon Musk boys, literally, if you know what I mean, right? Fire boys, right? I'm telling you that I know a client who has a Rolex, a Rolls Royce, a Maybach. 90% of the time I've seen him, he drives a Hilux, and it's a thing, right? So Apple's identity is simplicity. Nothing else can be as simple as the iPhone. I mean, the Apple, A for Apple, that's how I like to think about it. A, B, C, D, A for Apple. But do anybody remember that the first iPhone that came out, the iPhone 1, was the first phone that you couldn't open the back and bring out the battery? Now, every phone, if you remember what phones were before Apple, if you remember,
yes, now,
like if your phone is not
yes,
hanging, just open the battery and leave it for 5 minutes and put it back. You know, Apple killed that.
Yeah.
Apple phone, you don't bring out the battery. You want to bring out the battery iPhone, you go see Computer Village first. You know, right? So less is more. Brand story is. So you see, there's a connection between the Jesus story, less is more. If they overtold the Jesus story, there would have been see finish in Jesus story. So we don't know whether between 13 and 30, he was a regular guy who made mistakes, like a regular guy did. But that would be too much detail that might have sort of demystified him. Don't forget that there was a time when, according to like the Garden of Eden story, God used to come and chill downstairs, and you saw what he finished, Adam and Eve, right? Basically, he's even asking about them, and he says, is it not the wife that you gave me? You know, that's what see finish. So as a brand, you do see finish. And I still said this nicely to somebody yesterday. Somebody called me and said that that there's an event today, that can I come and speak? You know, surprisingly and honestly, I could have spoken at an event that I've already given you my word today. So I told him, look, there are two challenges here. First, I have a commitment. Even though I know it's virtual, yours is virtual, I can finish it and still go there. And the pay looked nice. But I had a challenge. And that challenge was I'd never heard of the people before. And I don't know who they are. And it's all this wealth, how to make 1 billion in one day type of thing. And I didn't like that concept. Another thing was I also did not like, right, when I looked at the flyer, and this is just internally as a conversation, within feedback, less is more. Anyone who knows that I try not to overexpose myself and my brand. And I like to say that if you want to make everybody happy, sell ice cream, right? Your story has to be told and has to be protected, right? It's not going to be all over the place. Don't try to be all over the place because you're trying to be a brand. So that's the S, story. T is trigger. Trigger is know what is the trigger for your brand. Every brand has a trigger, right? For me, management consulting, one of the things I learned early enough in management consulting, a major part of our value here is business plan writing. And I noticed a trigger, right? That people write more business plans and do more retreats towards the end of the year. I mean, Ezekiel can confirm this, right? So that's a trigger for me, right? So that time of the year, I don't play with, once it's October, November, December, I don't play with it. Another thing I also realized was that people I needed on my side were corporate bankers, right? HNI account officers of banks. Because they are the ones that always tell you that, oh, you know what, I have this client who wants to expand his steel factory and he's trying to raise 20 billion from BOI. BOI is not going to give you 20 billion without a business plan. So I put them on a special place, right? So they are my triggers. So you've got to know what the trigger for your business is. Where do they buy? Where did they go to before they come to you? So I know that the guy that needs a business plan probably went to a bank first. So microfinance banks, depending on what level you're playing in, are your triggers. If you look at even the streets, you see that the street has triggers. People don't just wake up and buy bread. They must have bought agony beans on the streets, then they want to buy bread. Nnemeka and Chukudi don't just wake up and sell lacasera and gala. Like Chukudi is selling lacasera, Nnemeka is selling gala. Nnemeka, Chukudi that sells lacasera sits somewhere and watches Nnemeka sell gala. He doesn't, because you need to also manage your energy. Because we are all over the place. I don't know where we got this thing in Nigeria where hustle. One thing I don't like as a thing is hustle. I don't like the term. I don't want to raise children that think that life is about hustle. I don't know why how Nigeria got it. Hustle is inversely proportional to wealth. That's always my view on this. That hustle is inversely proportional to wealth. The higher the hustle, the lower the wealth. So people hustle, right? The guy that don't sell the most lacasera or soft drink in traffic is not the guy that runs the most. It's the guy that understands that gala is a trigger for soft drink and puts his eye on the guy selling gala. Do you know if you carry gala, you carry soft drink in traffic, do you know how many no's? How many people that don't want soft drink before you see the one that wants soft drink? So why are you stressing yourself? Just wait for the guy that is bought gala. Because the guy that bought gala, 70 to 90% chance that he will need soft drink. So that's trigger, right? Brands rub off on brands and they are triggers to business. I'll talk about the EP and S shortly, but Ezekiel, I'd like to know what your thoughts are on storytelling and triggers.
So with regards to triggers, so I always, I'll give you a personal example. So for us, one of the things that I teach and that we've practiced is you need to ask the people that need you, where do they go to before they come to you? So I remember we had done some work with a school in Lekki Phase 1. And Lekki Phase 1, this school is about 1.5 million per term. It's a very expensive school. And these are the particular types of schools that have hit massively with the relocation drive, because the people who are relocating are the kinds of people that would bring their kids to such a school. So this school had lost about 2/3 of their attendance, and nothing had nothing to do with them, just the fact that the market is shrinking. And so we had this session and we said, look, can we find people before they have to make a decision, right at the point just before they have to make a decision? So we did an analysis, came up with a customer avatar, and realized the kinds of people whose children would come to the school are most likely going to be born abroad. If somebody can afford your school, chances are that the parents, whoever the parents are, would most likely offer this child some form of an insurance in form of a second citizenship or what have you, right? So chances that all of these people will most likely be born abroad. So that means you can't find them when they're born, right? But if they are going to live in the country somewhere around the 3rd month, if they have to live in the country, it's because the parents have something doing here that is very important that they don't want to go abroad for. But somewhere in the 3rd month, 2nd, 3rd month, they would come into the country, right? The mother would come into the country, and the likes. And how do you then find them? Because at the point where they have come into the country, it's 3 months, they haven't started a conversation yet about school. But that conversation is already brewing. So we then ask, where can you find these people, where they get their immunizations? So there's immunizations for children from where they are born to when they are 2 years old. These people wouldn't go to government hospitals. They would go to certain types of private hospitals. And you see that already. In fact, if you go to some government hospitals, you would see that there's a strategic partnership between the maternities and, let's say, Pampers, for example, right? So, why don't you form a strategic partnership, have a small gift, have a small pamphlet or a small book that says 7 ways to raise, a 21st century child. Write 6 nice things there, and the 7th one should be that you're waiting for them. So we then executed this thing, and as the new session started, it typically blew up. In fact, the CEO, the owner of the school, was telling me that there was a particular family that lived just a street after the school and was never even aware that that school was there. And would have to drive almost 20 minutes to another school and was never aware that that school was there, right? So if you're going, and it's one of the things that I want to talk about much later, that many times as business owners looking to expand, we don't think about, who should we be talking to? Like as you said, if you're going to be doing business plans at that level, you need to have bankers that are your friends, high-level bankers that deal with HNIs, because they're the ones that, because HNIs, they treat their bankers like consultants. They would be talking to the banker, I want to expand this, I want to expand that, where do we get the funding, blah, blah, blah. And the banker says, I know a particular guy that can help you put the numbers, put the things together so that you can approach BOI, so that this can happen. So you want to be that type of person. So what that means is that you need to figure out, how do I attract those types of bankers? Because what's happening with most business owners is that, and the third thing I was going to talk about, maybe when I get into that, is people engage in what I call wishful thinking strategy. You have a marketing plan, and you haven't asked whether the marketing plan you are executing on can attract the ideal clients that you are hoping for. We do whatever it is that we want to do, and we expect God to help us. But the reality is that even Jesus Christ, I was reading the Bible one time. It always puzzled me why Jesus Christ always had a crowd every time he was somewhere. Every time you would be there, he would say, and the crowd gathered, and my first inclination as a Christian was that, as per se, is Bros J now. Holy Spirit is just arranging everybody. Until I read a scripture in John, and it blew me away. It said that Jesus Christ took the 70, right? And then he sent them out 2 by 2. But the next part was what blew me away. He said he sent them out to towns that he will visit. So I said, so just picture it this way. Peter and John walking to Capernaum. They see one blind guy. They lay hands. The guy's eye open. The guy says, you are the best thing since sliced bread. Bros. Get one guy ready to come next Tuesday. If he show, everything will scatter. So that's why it always felt like Jesus Christ in the place, there's 5,000 people there. It's not because the Holy Spirit is guiding all of them. It's because people have entered into those cities 2 by 2. They've already done something. And people are, in fact, if you read that story of the woman with the issue of blood, she said that the woman had determined in her mind that she only had to touch him. That is not Holy Spirit telling her. That's from information that she's gotten from somebody else's experience, right? But a lot of the time, a lot of people are not careful about the strategy that we're executing, whether I can get the people that we're looking for. We're just, doing spread and pray. We just do it and hope that God will, God will put Alibarika on it, and Alibarika will now turn into money, So, but I mean, I don't know if you have something to say.
I like how this conversation is going, and I like the fact that we're looking at the science to even what we call miracle, and people need to know that there's a science to miracle. Jesus can walk on water, right? But 99% of the time, he took a boat. Right, he took a boat. Walking on water was not a means of transportation for Jesus, right? There's a Japanese word called Nintendo. Nintendo, right? The game. It's actually a Japanese word, and that Japanese word means "leave luck to heaven," right? Leave luck to heaven, and that's how I want to live my life. I believe in miracle. I believe in luck, but I leave it to heaven and do my own work. So I like that thought around it, and there's a lot of miracle that. And also a lot of unanswered questions that if we shake this table now with the video, Jesus spoke to 5,000 people. I think that's a real miracle. Not that he spoke to 5,000 people, is that he spoke to 5,000 people without a microphone. That is the real miracle.
True.
If you've ever been in a hall of 5,000 people, you know how much you have to scream, right?
Absolutely.
So that's by the side anyway. So EPS. So you guys are following, right? Steps, right? STEPS, right? Emotions. You can't build a great brand without playing people's emotions. So we like to think of human beings as cognitive, as logical, but we're actually more emotional than cognitive. So brands are supposed to be treated like that. And what that means is that people buy from people they have an emotional connection with. Your brand will sell more if you can sell it to emotions. MTN has shown us this every time they do ads and they put children in the ads, right? I remember seeing this classic MTN ad one time, the old where the guy forgot his script and his child read it over the phone, and they clapped. And I don't remember. MTN has always had a lot of ads around children. I feel like it's cheesy, but it works, right? People buy from people they know, like, and trust, right? People buy from people they know, like, and trust. You being likable is important, right? People are cognitively biased in nature. And there's a book called The Law of Human Nature by Robert Greene. And I think we should read that book to understand that human nature is very predictable. And human nature doesn't actually change from generation to generation. That's why every generation will have its own wars. No generation becomes too civil to fight a war, right? No generation becomes too civil to fight a war. That means human beings are primitive. There are things that are primitive. Let me give you a good example of cognitive bias. When Apple creates an iPhone and they put 3 categories of the iPhone, Apple also has a template. They launch about the same time in almost every year. They always launch in the same type of rhythm. They always launch 3 series. So now we have an iPhone. What series are we on now? iPhone 15? Is that it? Yeah, 15. I've sort of almost lost touch. Yeah. So they say iPhone 15, iPhone 15 Pro, and iPhone 15 Pro Max. Right? That's them playing with your emotions. So this is what they really do. iPhone 15 can go for, say, $1,000, right? Startup price. iPhone 15 Pro go for, say, $1,450. Then iPhone 15 Pro Max will now go for $1,500. Now pay attention. One is $1,000. The other one is $1,450. Right? The next one is $1,500. Cognitive bias. Which one do people end up buying more? They end up buying Pro Max more because they think that the gap between Pro Max and Pro, they feel like they are cheating Apple. Right? That is called cognitive bias in marketing. That's play with the emotion. Like when push comes to shove, we all are emotional. I mean that human beings by nature are actually manipulative, even though nobody wants to talk about it the way they are. That's why there are things in psychology like deduction and induction. Deductive reasoning is manipulative in itself. The whole concept when we even say stuff and say, okay, let's go back to the book of Mark. And then when I say, let's go back to the book of, we're trying to connect 2 dots. Sometimes they're not even related. Somebody can tell you that the reason, a drunkard can tell you that the reason why he's drinking because he just turned water to wine. That is trying to deduce that because he just turned water to wine, it means that just as approved wine. He also has told you there, right there and then, that Jesus did not tell you that it was vodka or it was champagne. He has already come to the conclusion that the wine he's referring to is even whiskey that he's drunk on. Like that's, human beings are deductive by nature. Now, if you know this, what does it mean? That you can get someone to buy more by empowering him to think that he's manipulating you. And it sounds a bit brutal, right? So that's what negotiation really is in business, right? Negotiation. So Apple gives you the opportunity to think that you have 3 options. Meanwhile, you actually have 2 options. That iPhone Pro is not an option. They're using the iPhone Pro to sell Pro Max. I don't know if anybody sees that concern. Human beings are emotional. If you understand that people are emotional, that land they are trying to sell, that you're chasing that man. If you understand the power of the woman, the wife in the house that you have not greeted because you think she's not the one that is buying, right? Or you went there to sell something. You go with a gift for the wife, or you don't think that the wife is a qualification. That wife is the reason why, right? Is buying somewhere else. You don't just know. I don't know if you know that. Once again, men like to feel like they're in charge, but we all know who the real boss is in the house. But you not knowing, I learned this thing years ago from Jim Ovia. Jim Ovia, when he was MD of Zenith, somebody will be employee of the month, maybe most punctual staff. He's supposed to give the man a gift. He will not give the man a gift. He will give his wife the gift. So most punctual man, most punctual staff, a guy will get washing machine for his wife. Sure, you know that if you get home with washing machine because you're punctual, The next day, you cannot afford to go late. The woman will wake you up and say, bros, come and be going to work because she needs microwave too next month. So you need to know stakeholders in the lives of people you're trying to sell or build a brand with, right? So emotions, always remember that. Go with a gift, freemium. It's really important. People don't care about how much you know, so they know about how much you care, right? We all own communities here, and we see that all the time. Well, we say, okay, you know what? Your wife can come for a 50% discount. You see their wives coming, right? Right. So it's really important. And for a week, one of the things I've learned is don't even try to do business with a female who has a husband without you engaging the husband, because the husband needs to feel comfortable with you around the wife, and it's not even anything around sexuality or anything like that. Right. Right. People, human beings, law of human nature. There are certain things where we are power drunk. We have power tendencies. We all have power tendencies. That's why wars are fought because of power in itself, right? So emotions is important. Be the emotional, invest people's emotional bank account, right? And then let me just quickly end up with P and C. P is practical value, right? Practical value, but maybe Ezekiel, you want to talk about the emotions just real quick? Okay, so P is practical value, right? Practical value is basically saying when you're selling a brand or when you're trying to build your brand, there is a face in that brand that you have to do giveaway, like literally do giveaway for the brand to be recognized and accepted, right? Early days of Hypo, I saw this was part of some of those behind the scene conversations, and I saw what Hypo did, what Hypo knocked out Jig. Let's not forget that for over 50 years, we only thought of bleach as Jig. If anybody remembers in the 90s, we only thought of Jig as bleach, right? The same way we thought of right.
There was another brand too.
Well, the fact you can't remember it shows you how much market share Jig had, right? Jig had. It's hard to miss people use Jig anymore. But you know what, Hypo? Hypo was an underdog. They did a lot of things right. I like the portability that they came in the market with the sachet bleach. That was disruptive. That was disruptive in itself. But one thing they did right was, I think the first 10,000 units of Hypo that was ever created was given out for free for people to try Hypo. Of course, there's a behind the scenes story too. They not give it to my brother and Nemeka Chukwudish because they would have sold it in the market even though they gave it for free. They systematically gave it to Abokis. You know those guys that have small shops near the gatehouse. You know those Abokis that have gatehouse and the gatehouse you can buy TomTom, buy this. They ensure that they did grassroots door to door to give them cartons to give out to people, because you know that's the last grade of the supply chain. That's the end user, right? Someone that wants to wash socks for bleach. That is practical value. They wanted you to try it first. I don't know if sort of like this makes sense, right? Right. It does work, right? If Malam Musa can sell suya simply by, when you come to buy suya, he cuts a small part of the suya and gives you for taste. My question I always ask is, how often do you take that small one piece of suya, eat and walk away? How often does that happen? Rarely does it happen. You end up buying. Now that's even E and P together, because he's bought into your emotional bank account. You don't want to feel like you ate free suya and walked away. So he's emotionally blackmailed you to buy. But more importantly, he's also giving you practical value. So people need to know that practical value is a thing, right? All these artists you're seeing that are big now, the amount of free show they did before they became big, right? P Square, early days of P Square, and I remember this, I don't know if you remember, Ezekiel, back in the days, we used to do work with Amma. I think, man, you went for a retreat in Amma. I don't know if you remember Amma, Peace of Blessed Memory. No, not Brace and Hammer. Amma, African Movie Academy. African Movie Academy. Okay. Amma, you know, we lost her last year, right? Ezekiel, you know, right? PMO, I am Mosigwe. She told a story one time, and I forget. You know, people don't know how powerful she is in Nigeria. I mean, she always would say stuff like, "Oh, a lot of this Nigerian entertainers, like she took them abroad for the first time." You know, she told us she's very close to P Square, Peter and Paul. She said that back in the days, Peter and Paul would pay to perform on stage. Pay. No, not Ada Ame. No. Stella, I'm not talking about Ada Ame. Her name is Peace Ayamusube. We lost her last year, sadly. Right. So practical value is a thing. And then the last S, steps is social currency. There are 3 sets of people you must have on your side. Maybe it's connectors, but it's a bit too technical. I think I'll just pass on to Ezekiel at this point. Ezekiel, I'll take the backstage now and you take the front stage as a co-pilot.
Can you mention those 3 things, those 3 people you need to have on your side?
Mavens, sneezers, and connectors. No brand is built without the help of 3 categories of people in their industry. Mavens, sneezers, and connectors. Mavens are people who have expertise in that industry. So, for example, let me go back to my watch ideology, right? If I say that this watch was made in Switzerland, it means something. I don't know if you know. Switzerland is the watch capital of the world. All these Cartier, Audemars, Patek Philippe, Richard Mille, right? Rolex. These are all from the same country. These are the top. I just mentioned the top 10, the top 6 biggest brand names in wristwatch in the world, right? Cartier, Rolex, Patek Philippe, Audemars, and Richard Mille and them. Richard Mille is a new entrant, but it's big, right? These watches, I'm talking about wristwatches that are $1 million, $2 million, $5 million for a wristwatch. Just me saying that this watch is made in Switzerland has value. So the reason why I put my brand, I said, let's push this guy champagne, because the champagne was made in the village that is known for making champagne in the world. So let me give you an example. It's like you trying to sell me palm wine and tell me that the palm wine was made in Kano. It's hard to sell me palm wine that is made in Kano. Kano does not have palm trees like that. Do you get what I mean? We don't think of palm wine, I think of Kano. The fact that you're thinking Kano and palm wine, your palm wine already is fake. Like there's no commercial you want to have with me, right? I have a very high-end, very interesting girl. She has a brand called Ogogoro. She's exported Ogogoro, but the brand is interesting. I don't know if Ezekiel, you know the brand, Ogogoro. Premium spirits. It is going head-to-head with like expensive. But the story is that it is made in original Warri. Warri, Sapele water. That's what they call it. Sapele water. It's so sometimes mavens are people that are experts. You can't build a brand without getting the endorsement of experts. This is why if what's this brand? Pepsodent wants to sell you toothpaste, they sell it with somebody wearing a costume that looks like a dentist. We'll never know whether that person is really a dentist or not. But the fact that a dentist, in quotes, is behind a toothpaste, it adds credibility to the brand building. I want to sell a brand new engine oil. Hope I know that my mechanic is a maven. How many times what determines the engine oil we use most of the time is our mechanics. So your mechanic is a maven. I saw a mismatch one time. I can't remember what brand made Tiwa Savage ambassador for engine oil. I'm like, this is a disconnect. I mean, shout out to Tiwa Savage, she has cashed out on it. But why did you just use Pasuma Wonder? Or Kwamwon? Yeah. I don't know if anybody connects. Kwamwon connects with engine oil because, bros, they now garage boys, right? Matter of fact, I would want to see an MC Oluomo carry engine oil as a brand ambassador because you think of engine oil, you think of mechanics, you think of garage, you think of workshop, you think of, if you know what I mean. I mean, I don't know if this is straight bullets to MC Oluomo, but you will get it, right? Right? So that's pretty much how that works. Yes, or Brother Shaggy. Yes, now, how can you now go and carry DJ Copy to now want to go and sell engine oil? How now? How? Like, you get like, so in the end, the first category is Maven, second category is sneezers. Sneezers are people who own platforms in your industry. Don't play with them. Right? People that own platforms in your industry, don't play with them. Right? So once again, right, you want to sell engine oil. Hope you know that if you can get into the room of a NURTW meeting, that's a platform for you. Do you know how many buses and kekes are in Lagos? If you can meet them all in the hall when they do their town hall meeting, sort of like town hall different from Bala Blue, right? 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 But you guys get the concept, right? Your platform, it's important for you to carry the guys who own platform. They're called sneezers. And every industry has sneezers. You are a tech guy, you're launching your app. You're not on Tech Points. Are you playing? Right? Literally. Right? Tech Point is a platform that tech boys go to know what's going on. Right? And of course, the last category of people are connectors. People who connect people. There are people who know people. Don't play with people that know people. I will always say that the guy that knows everyone will always be richer than the guy that knows everything. The guy that knows everyone will always be richer than the guy that knows everything. So while you're trying to be the guy that knows everything, hope you know that it's better to be the guy that knows everyone, because the guy that knows everyone also knows the guy that knows everything. I rest my case, guys.
Oh my goodness. Unmute, sir.
Thank you. Wow. Even me, I have notes that I filled up. Thank you. Thank you so much. Yeah. So my own bit is essentially to talk about strategies on how to scale the business. So usually, whenever I get an opportunity to talk to people about wanting to scale the business, the first thing I like to also help people establish is how big, right? How big? Because big is relative to a lot of people, right? How big do you want your business to grow? And I have a yardstick that I help people figure out. I tell people that it's important to grow your business. If you don't have any dreams or you don't have any vision, just grow your business big enough to represent the dreams of your staff. It's one of the reasons why small businesses don't grow, because when they think about the future, the only person they see in that future is themselves, right? It's only themselves, the car they're going to own. I had a meeting with one of our clients, and they had an amazing year. They had entered into 3-point-something billion naira mark. And usually when I have coaching clients like that, I like to meet them, twice a month. So I'd requested that this meeting was in, his house in Ikoyi. And it's this, 10 apartment building, 5-story buildings, really nice place, amazing place. So I go to this place. And so the first question I ask is, who are your neighbors? And it's like, this person works in Exxon, this person works in this, about 4 of them were entrepreneurs, 6 of them, sort of worked for other people. So as we went through the conversation, I took her through a particular test. And if I had time, I'll probably run you through it. For some of us, this might be the most important thing that you've done in a long time. In fact, I tell people that most people, if you go through, it's just 10 minutes, but most people won't finish this activity. They probably have like high blood pressure, stroke, whatever it is. But if you finish it, you would have a completely different life. So we did that. And then I asked her a question. I said, what would it take? How big does this business need to get for you to be able to put some of your people, some of your staff members, in a place like this to live? And she's like, oh, there's some things you can't achieve if you don't own your own business. I said, but that's not true. You just told me now that you have neighbors who work for other people. They are in that room for 2 reasons. Number 1, the business can afford to. Number 2, they are that valuable. And as entrepreneurs, especially those of us that bootstrap our business, we oftentimes start with who's available, right? And down the road, sometimes you have people that are available, but they're not capable, right? Sometimes you have people that are really capable, but they're not loyal. They'll leave at the first. But if you're fortunate enough to find somebody who's capable and loyal, do you have a business that can represent the dreams of that person? If that person has a dream, can they achieve that? Because we tell people that you cannot be rich working for somebody else, but I think that that's bullshit, because I think that it depends on who you're working for. There are people on Forbes.
Absolutely.
I just watched a documentary on Steve Ballmer. Steve Ballmer never took a job. Never started a business. Builds the entire career in Microsoft. Is worth $112 billion. And there are all these other people, Sheryl Sandberg, all these kind of people. So the first thing I want to get people to see is, if you don't have big dreams, some people, where they're coming from is very far. What we consider trivial is their big dreams. I get it. But you must have a dream, not just for yourself, but for the people who work with you. And you must start to show them that you see them as people, not objects. There are a lot of people who see their staff members as they see the furniture. Things that are useful but not aspirational, right? Because your furniture is useful, but you've never thought about the future of that furniture. It's not in your thoughts, right? So it's important for us. Now, how many of us, I'd like for 10 minutes, how many of us would like to go through that? I'll just ask you a few questions, you write it down. How many of us would like to do that? 10 minutes.
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
I need their permission because it's not going to be safe. So here's what I want to do. We think we know this thing, but if we go through it, it might sort of shake the table for us. I want to help you find out how much money you spend every month. I know you think you know, but if you give me 10 minutes, we can figure it out together. And then we'll probably be able to find, I have 2 questions to ask, and then I'll be done with that segment. So how many of us are ready? So the first thing I want you to write is rent. Most of us here pay rent, right? Get a notepad, or don't write it in the chat, but nobody needs to see it. Get a notepad like this, like I do have here. Write rent. Now, in this country, we basically pay rent annually, right? So I want you to take that number and divide it by 12. So if you divide it by 12, that tells me, or that tells you rather, how much is due every month, so that your rent is not like suddenly due and your wife suddenly gives birth. Do you understand? So, every single, so let's say your rent is 6 million, so that would be 500,000 a month, right? So don't write 6 million, write 500,000. When you're done with that, I want you to write, don't write it, we don't want to see your rent. I want you to write rent done in the comment section. That tells me you're done with rent. Just write rent done. Rent done. R-E-N-T done. If I see 3 or 4 rent done, I know that. You know the reason why I'm asking you to report? Because most people would not finish this thing. Now, if you're done with rent, the next thing most of us here probably have cars. So if you have a car, you fuel your car every week. So for example, I fuel my car 35,000 a week. This is like renewed hope price. Before it used to be 12K. Now it's 35,000 a week. So if you fuel, so that means I spend 140,000 fueling, one of the cars, and about 30,000 fueling the other, so 20,000 fueling the other one every single week. So so you put that one together. Once you have that, if you don't have a car, then there's like a budget for transporting yourself. Maybe you want 1K per day, that's 30K, whatever it is. But once you're done with that, I want you to write TP done. TP done. TP. That tells me you're done with transportation. Good. Thank you. Mr. Shagun, thank you, sir. Anybody else? Good. Now, next is utilities. Most of us here have utilities. So under utilities, you can write a couple of things. So for example, you have light bill. Most of us here have some form of light bill that we pay, IKDC, whatever EDC it is in Atlanta, where Mr. Clement is, whatever whatever EDC it is in the UK, because I noticed somebody joining from the UK. Most of us here live in gated environments, so there's some form of estate dues, service charge, security bill, something like that. And then most of us here have some form of cable TV, HBO, Amazon Prime, whatever it is. I want you to write all that down. And if you live in Nigeria, because this might be exclusive to those of us in Nigeria, most of us have some budget for fueling our car, our generator, our main power, where the government's power is the alternative power. Once you're done with that, I want you to write UT done. That tells me you're done with utilities. Good. Thank you. Next is so feeding costs. So feeding cost is not food stuff in your house. Feeding cost is exclusively for those of us that don't work from home. I know some of us work from home. Those of us that don't work from home. If you don't work from home, chances are that there's somewhere close to your office that you buy food. It's not far. It's like, I mean, it's a small budget, maybe 100K. Sorry, well, depends. I've taken dinner in a restaurant that's 360,000 for a meal before. I was paid for by a client anyways. But 1K, 500, whatever it is, you know what it is. So write down what that food cost will be. That's about 25, 26 working days in a month. And if you work every day, prorate that for each day, and then write FD done. So that tells me you're done with feeding costs. This is not food stuff in your house. This is just eating out. If you work from home or you don't eat out, it's okay. Just leave that out of the question. You're very fine. We're just looking for where all your money is going to. If it's not going there, it's okay. It's perfectly okay. So who's done with the FD? Good. Next is groceries. So groceries is much like the food stuff in your house. It's food stuff, toiletry, the whole 9 yards. If you're married with children, it's probably the third largest budget in your household, maybe behind school fees, house rent, Good. So groceries is like the entire thing, toiletries, food stuff, all that stuff. It's a big budget. So if you buy things, if you plan properly and you buy things monthly, you know it. If you buy things as you go, you might need to do a little bit of thinking, but you get it, right? Good. So once you're done with that, I want you to write GC done. So that tells me you're done with groceries. And then we'll enter the three biggest ones and we'll be done. How many of us are done with groceries here? Good. Thank you, Bishop E. Bishop E is done. Who else? Kishagun is done. Loveline Nana is done. So school fees. So school fees is tricky. If your children are not yet at university, you pay school fees 3 times a year, right? So there's term 1, term 2, term 3. So what I need you to do is add all 3 terms together. Gives you annual. Divide that number by 12 so that we see how much the school fees is due every month. And of course, you do that for each child. There's no buy one, get one free school. At least I don't have, if I know where that one is, I'm taking my children. I have 2 kids, so I want to buy one, get one free. So once you're done with that school fees, right, SF done. If your children are in university, it's easy. It's one payment. You know how to prorate that for a month. I'm trying, because most of us think about our revenues on a monthly basis and our income and our salaries and stuff. You want to think about that. So if you're done, write SF done. Let me see who's done. Who's got into SF? And if you don't pay school fees, you're not married, you don't have kids, it's okay. You're not spending that money, so it's okay. Just write SF done and let's move on. All right. Next, after SF, let me see. I'll wait for 2 more people to write SF and then we'll move. Great. Emeka, thank you. Next is personal expense. So personal expense is, how much you spend on yourself. But, for most entrepreneurs that I know, they really don't spend much on themselves. Maybe it's simple things, haircut here, couple of, maybe clothes, whatever it is. It's a small budget. I'm sure you can crack that in a few seconds. It's, like for example, me now, I don't do Ashwebi. I have a policy. I have 2 white natives. If you invite me to anything in this world, I'm entering one of those 2 white natives and I'm coming. One of them has agbada, so if you're very dear to me, I'll wear the agbada one. My grandfather died. My mom said Ashwebi. I said, the policy. I have a no Ashwebi policy personally. Next is childcare expense. So childcare expense is money you spend on your child that is not school fees. So for example, because Mbappe is collecting a lot of money now. And football is very profitable. I decided that, at the beginning of this year, no, it will cost HBP. Yeah, we know. Just don't stop, Bishop. Most people will stop now. So we decided that we wanted to register my son for. We decided to register my son for football class. Took him to a club, register him. I and my wife went there on the first day to go and look at our future investment because if I have a son collecting 700 million pounds per week, I'm not going to be doing this thing. If you do, and there's no motivation. If you want to give up, give up. But the way the boy started playing, me and his mom turned to ourselves and said, Kai, this boy can never make it in football. I told the coach, put him in the post, let's see whether nothing. So we decided to go on option B, to register him for a coding class, because if you cannot collect pounds per week, maybe you can raise Series A. It can still work. And that one seems to be working well. So how much is your childcare expense? His younger brother is turning 3 on Tuesday. And, we want to go and try him for football. So maybe it can be the Jude Bellingham of our household. Next is communication. How much you spend on communication? Airtime, data. It's a lot more. It's become a lot more of a sizable budget in the last few years rather. But it's something we're almost done. Just 2 more. Sorry, actually 1 more. Once you're done with that, So once you've done childcare expense, right, CC done or something like that. Next is communication. Communications comes done. If you figure out how much you spend on airtime, for in data. Next is giving. I know we all think that giving is like is spontaneous, but if you check the last 6 months, you would find that there's a pattern to how you give. There's some giving that you do to God, some people you give to your family members. There's some urgent 2K people that you always give to. They're not the same, but there's always the urgent 2K budget that you give. Just figure it out. And then lastly is what I call other expense. Other expense is anything I've not mentioned. So some people like to travel at least once a year with the family. Some people like to, do all this time. Because like in my house, we have a budget for it. Every single year, we put some money aside, because I want to make sure that my children are as, I took a plane first in my service year. First plane. I got that money and I even borrowed money to join because I felt it was too embarrassing to not have taken a plane in my life, and my son is 7. And before he was 5, before the pandemic, he's gone to like maybe 6 countries. So I'm proud of that. He's a global person. He thinks very differently. So if you're done with that, I want you to write all done and I want you to add everything together. So what you're looking at is all of these figures that are tabulated monthly. So just add everything up together. The number you're looking at is pretty much around what you spend every month. It might not be accurate. It might be, it's more likely to be more than less, but it's pretty much a reflection. Some of us would look at that list and be wondering and realize why we've not been able to save money for a very long time, right? So now the 2 questions I want to ask you is, number 1, does your business pay you that amount of money as a salary? Because your business doesn't pay you that amount of money as a salary. Tomorrow when you get to church, when your pastor is saying that you should pray against Kakawam and Pamawam, please don't pray, because you and the Pamawam are in collaboration to destroy your business, right? But that's not the question. The question I'm saying, the reason why I did that is, if you look at that number now, how big does your business need to get to pay 20 people that number you just wrote down? Because that's the mindset I want you to have. How big? So I tell you, I go back to the story of that, my client. And so when I had that conversation, we started to discuss how to make this possible. And in 1 year, they grew from a 3 billion naira business in revenue to 17.4 billion naira with 3 offices, 1 in Ghana, 1 in Dubai, and 1 in London, and Nigerians living in those places as expatriates. You see, these Nigerians could have been stuck in this place, right? These Nigerians could have probably left the company. But now when people realize that the business is growing and you find other opportunities for them, guess what? They will stay, they would grow, and even you would find a bigger reason to grow. Because if all you want to grow for is you, guess what? How much do you really need? We don't need much. A nice house, a nice car, the opportunity to sleep and wake up on one bed. Very few people will lose their motivation after they've met some of those basic things. The second factor is that I think that people, first, I think that their dreams are too small. Second, I think that people wish for unnecessary amount of money. So I had this client that ran a business, and she was, she wanted her business to grow, and I said, okay, so what do you want? She said she wants to grow to a 300 million naira business. I said, okay, good. Based on your understanding of your business and your margin, what would be your profit? I mean, your profit before tax, at that point. So she said it was going to be, I think it was, 40%. So it was going to be somewhere around 100 million. So I said, 100 and something million. Good. Do you have a project right now that requires 100 and something million? She said, no. I said, so you're not going to get the money. Money is a tool. Money is a tool. You would never grow beyond the amount of money you are prepared to handle. It's just simple. It's the reason why you notice, if you look at every serious businessman in the world, they are either coming out of a big project or going into a big project. Think about Dangote. He's just trying to come out of can you hear me? Somebody said the volume is too low.
The volume is fine, sir.
Okay, good. So think about Dangote. He's trying to come out of the refinery project. But before the refinery project, he built the biggest cement factory. They're always, he comes out of something, he spends a couple of years, systemize, gets everything settled, but he's thinking about the next thing, right? Nobody should think about, I do capital, I do money, you can't. And the easiest way to think about it is this. People don't realize that when you hit your goals, you slow down. If you had a month where you said, I want to make 100 million, like you put a sales target, and it's the 15th of the month, you've already done 95 million. It's a fantastic one. How many of us here know that there's a sense in which we'll slow down? Somebody will call you at 11 o'clock and you'll be like, don't they know that there's work-life balance? Don't they realize that? But in a month where you want to do 100 million and it's 25th of the month and you are still at 10, you will pick a call at 11:30 and you'll be very official. Good afternoon, sir. My name is Ezekiel. How can I help you, please? That kind of thing. So it's really, and I had a mentor who told me something. I've never heard it before. She said, her goal right now is to ensure she never achieves her goals. Me, I have never heard that one before. I said, please explain. She said that the last time she achieved her goal, she just decided to take a chill pill and just, enjoy. And she was stuck in that place for 6 years. And she woke up from it 6 years after and realized. So what she started to do was that anytime she sets a goal and she sees that, and the goal is in sight, she'll take a few days off and go think about it and ask, what's the next thing? So before she achieves that, she already knows what the next thing is. And so her focus is now to achieve that next thing rather than to achieve what's in front of her now. Right? So, those two things are very, very clear. I wanted to ask if you wanted to add something to this before I just talk about the last one in 5 minutes, and so that we can round off this session. You want to add something to this?
Okay, so yes, I see what you're doing and amazing stuff. It's basically just trying to get people to 10x, 20x what they're doing. I also know you hung around Kadon quite often, and
yes.
And I think you're totally spot on 100%. But if I was to add one thing, is the supporting structures and the systems you build for this. There's a lot of confusion is really mindset, because yes, I agree that everything created twice, first mental, then physical, right? A lot of people are physically aspiring, but mentally haven't been in that place, right? But when you mentally finally get there, because I agree, and this is one of the, we have a question, I'm just thinking about something. Why I don't like when people, how do I explain now? It's okay to outgrow your environment, right? Outgrow even your friends and find new friends. And that's not disloyal. It just means that they're still your friends, but they are, at any given point you must be ahead. But then it's the supporting structures that I'm concerned about. So for example, the people parts, right? At what point do you have a supporting structure to grow your friends? So practically, for example, right, right, to his friends, right, and then they become your friends. I don't know if you know that there's a level you go to where your mentor actually becomes like your friend, right? There's a level you go to be as consultant where you become so close to someone that you meet the guy, you're not discussing business anymore. He's your guy, guy. That's a structure. Like me, I like to think of things in terms of structure, right? Just typically, right? So I think that that's really what the confusion is. So the systems, for example, and I like to just sum it up as like S's, right? So what is the structure for increasing your income, right? What is the system for increasing your income? What is the skill set for increasing your income? These are all systems. So if we say skill set, so what is the skill set for you to 10x what you're doing? Because the skill you have now might not be the skill you need for 10x. I remember we started off Xavier. What we used to do then was called branding, right? There's a time when you look at product line, you see website development. Right. There was a time when, but when we realized that you can't see, for you to make 100 million naira from making websites, bros, you must have done APC's website though. I'm telling you, right? You must have done APC's website. You know what I mean?
Eizu shot fire though.
Right. Or you must have caught bush in Aso Rock. But so you ask, what's the new skill set you need? What is the skill set? Because and it happens all the time. right? So that's under skill, right? Under staffing. What is also the kind of staff that you need to have? So if you notice, like the structures are all in the different, the same thing, but you're now creating structure for each of the S. So under staffing. So one thing I also learned as a hack is that for you to grow to the next level, you need to hire somebody who is coming from that level as a staff.
Yes.
Right. So when you look at like Paystack and Flutter, you find out that for them to make a leap, they have to get someone who has worked in MasterCard or Visa to join their team. It's actually a thing. It's a spiritual exercise, actually, because innovation, those great innovations only come from somebody external of a system, right? So that's under staffing. So I'm more concerned about structure. I think about this all the time. At the time I was battling with I don't like phone calls. Anybody who knows that I don't like phone calls. If you send me a message, it can take me 1 week for me to reply your message. It's a very bad thing, but I have 12,000 contacts on my phone. So it's a lot of 12,000 contacts. If half of them are on WhatsApp, that's 6,000 contacts. So I've come to the conclusion that I have a particular time of the day where I'll sit down after a day's work, right, and respond to messages, right, except if it's an SOS, right? So one of the things I learned about structures around it was when I discovered that, so I do walks, before Bros here left us, we used to be next door neighbors, me and Clement, right? Clement knows how much I come to drag him and say, let's go for a walk, let's go. I go for walks a lot. But I realized something, that I need to get a treadmill. That's supporting structure. A treadmill. While I still enjoy the fresh breeze, I still like to find new areas while I'm just doing my morning walk and my morning run. I like to go through different routes, just I'll find new spaces, find new spots, all these kind of things. But I realized something, that if I'm on a treadmill, I can actually respond to messages. Of course, I don't want to respond to messages while I'm walking on the road, right? Before my village people will send truck, will come and say hello to me, But while I'm on a treadmill, I actually realized that it's a 1 hour walk on a treadmill is about 5,000 steps, right? And about 3 kilometers, right? If you're walking. But that 6,000 steps, 1 hour walk can get me to reply over 100 or 200 messages. So you see structure for replying. So I really like to think of things like science. So that's just something I wanted to add. That people have got to have systems to support that mindset.
Yeah, you took it right out of my. So first things first, you mentioned that I actually have slides prepared for this. So I would send it to Mr. Clement so he can forward it. Because the next thing I was going to talk about is, so in this country, we're very good at preparing to grow. We're not very good at preparing for growth. Right? We're very good at, we're going to do big picture thinking. And when you get the slides, you probably see all of that. So once you figure out, I need to go to this point, that's okay, good. Because at every level, if you're in business, there's a level of operational excellence that you have at that level. The problem is that when you get to where you're going, would you be able to maintain that level of operational excellence? And so what that means is that the job of the CEO is to start to think about what's our business going to be like when we get to that point, right? Because I remember this particular client that I mentioned that closed at 17 billion naira, so one of the things that we did, so this meeting had happened in January. So we then spent, it happened first few days in January. So we spent almost every weekend in Sheraton, every Saturday in Sheraton, and the first 2 Saturdays in February, asking, okay, this is our goal. What if all these things were true, how can our structure carry this growth? You understand? How can you carry it? Because and the reason why this is important is that I tell my clients, what is worse than no customer is an angry customer. You rather not have a customer, because see, an angry customer can destroy your business. Perfect example. I and my wife were trying to get a maid for the house. And so she had gone online and she found this particular, company. And this company, they were very packaged well, amazing, but the experience was terrible. In fact, it got so bad they wouldn't call you back. It got so bad I told my wife, look, if these people are this lackadaisical, are you sure you want to get somebody from them? She said, no. She eventually got somebody from there, and it was a terrible experience. So she let the person go. They didn't even call to find out what happened. And then she got somebody else. So I'm in my office one day, and one of the members of our community was talking to me. She's a single mother. So she was talking about the fact that, now she needs to get, a maid and blah, blah, blah. And then she mentioned that she saw this company. Blah, but the moment she mentioned the company, the meeting ended. For 40 minutes, all I was doing was talking about my experience with that company. By the time I was done, she decided to work with the people that we eventually worked with and didn't work with those other people. But here's where it gets tricky. She's going to be in a room 2 weeks, 3 weeks from then, and somebody is going to say, I want to work with a maid, blah, blah, and mention that company. And she would sit that person down and she would talk so terribly about the company that she had never experienced. An angry customer will get people to hate you who don't even know you. And so if you're planning for growth, you want to make sure that we are thinking about the structure, like Eizu said. Eizu was talking about the McKinsey 7S. So you want to look at all of those things and be sure that, look, assuming everything I'm hoping for happens, can I carry this thing, right? So once you figure that one out, lastly is I want to make sure that I'm also not engaging in wishful thinking, right? A number of businesses that I have found are not very clear as to the exact type of people that they need to be talking to. And sometimes when they are, they're not particularly clear about what it takes to get those types of people. So, for example, somebody say, there's a project that I was called on. It didn't eventually work out, but I learned quite a lot from it. It was a project for a government agency. It's a training project. It was going to be the biggest project I worked on, 1.2 billion naira. For this training, it was going to be across Nigeria, Dubai, and Singapore. We're training about 650 staff members of a particular starter. So eventually, it didn't work out. But the guy who was the contact guy, I was talking to him, and he was explaining that, do you know how hard it is, to be able to get access to these people? That, for example, he has a relation, he has money, and he has a relationship in almost all the major airlines. So let's take BA or Emirates or any of those guys, and he's giving them specific names that anytime you see this name booked on the flight, book me on that same flight. Put me on the seat next to him. Don't ask me whether I want to go to the UK. When you finish booking it, call me and tell me that I'm going to the UK. It's not because he knows that guy, even if he has his PA, the PA won't sit in first class or business class, depending on what's available. The PA will sit maybe in premium economy. You would have 6 hours, 12 hours, 14 hours, depending on how many hours it is, to sit down with that person. And when people sit down next to each other in the plane, they talk for a few hours. They have this conversation, they are talking, blah, blah, blah. He's listening. He wants to find out where the man, and his PA is on standby. The moment the man says, oh, this is the hotel that I'm staying, so good. I mean, that's interesting. That's the hotel I also intend to stay. He sends his PA a message. That one makes sure that even if he means going to buy someone else's room, so the person does, and they do all of this, and there is still no guarantee that any project comes out. No guarantee whatsoever. Right? So you want to be very clear as to, for example, I do my events in specific locations because of the specific type of people we want to attract, right? Is it a more expensive option? Yes, it is, right? It's more expensive than the average event. But, for example, for us, people come to the event. We don't make money from people coming to the event, actually. The event pays for itself. We make money from the relationship we build with them beyond the event. But that relationship is only possible because of the quality of the location. Because I tell people, as a business person or as a person in general, how you meet people sometimes is more important than even meeting them. There's an assumption of competence when you meet certain people in certain places. I had an opportunity to speak at the House of Lords 2 months ago. And I met with the Prime Secretary in charge of petroleum. Then there was no minister at that. So it was the most senior guy. And, in the middle of, while we're at the House of Lords, I connected him to one of my friends who's been trying to get a license for something for the past 4 years. 4 years. The guy picks up, the guy says, I say, hey, you want to get this thing? Okay, no worries. You can get it done on Monday when I get back to Nigeria. He's been trying to do that thing in 4 years. But inside that room, there's an assumption of competence, right? So if you want to sell to mama put people, it's okay. Brand for those people. If you want to sell to Kali and all these high rate, brand for those people. But don't brand for Kali and out of frustration, because you cannot find those people, start to look for all these for low-end products. Or don't brand for low-end people and out of wishful thinking, hope that Dangote will buy your product. You have to be very, very clear, because if you're not clear, what happens is that you're going to waste a lot of money. In fact, I mean, we, even for realtors, when I do trainings for real estate people, I say, look, if you're in real estate and you're a realtor, pick a band. Pick a band. You know, most people, I ask them to say, I sell everything, 100,000 naira, 5 million. So no, pick a band. Pick a 10 million, or hypothetically, pick a 10 million to 20 million naira band. Now, does that mean somebody wants to buy 400K land, you will not sell? If they come to you, you sell. Does that mean if someone wants to buy 100 million naira land, you won't sell? If they come to you, you sell. But your entire marketing is not looking for them. It is better if you have 100,000 naira and you want to put it into marketing. If you would get better results marketing it to a targeted audience than you would get marketing it to everybody. Right? So once you figure those three things out, you know, you make sure that your dreams are big enough, bigger than you, right? The essence of entrepreneurship is not that you get rich. You know, the essence of entrepreneurship is that you create value, and that includes value for the people who work for you. Secondly, is to make sure that you move from project to project, right? You don't have idle dreams, you don't hope for idle money. The third is that you figure out, and when I say move from project to project, I don't just mean in terms of your goal, like Eizu said, in terms of your structure. It doesn't matter what you're trying to get if you cannot keep it, right? You want to make sure that as much as possible, you're reviewing your structure, you're hiring somebody from wherever it is you intend to go, or you're getting a mentor in that space, or you're going there to serve somebody in that space, which is something that I've also done. Serve somebody at that level. You know, personally, at every point in time, I'm always serving somebody. I mean, I'm currently holding some projects for somebody, and I have a lot of respect for him. Most of us might not even know who he is, you know, but I mean, he just finished a project for an organization, a 2-day training for $250,000. That's 250 million naira, 2 days. Do you know how many months I have to work for 250 million? Do you understand? You know, I mean, so, but that type of guy, you know, I find reasons to get into their space, find reasons to do some projects with them so that I can understand what's happening. Why would somebody pay you 250 million naira? What's coming out of your mouth, right? And it's the same guy. I remember when I've known him for 13 years. I remember back in the day when he mentioned, you know, how that he charged a certain amount. I said, you know what? I'm going to figure out how to be valuable enough to be able to get that type of stuff, right? So the idea is you want to get access to those people, and then lastly, you want to make sure that as your business, Mr. Shegu, you know the person now. I took him to lunch 2 Sundays ago. You want to make sure that your business is your entire marketing, your entire strategy, every single thing you're trying to do is very focused on who you believe your ideal client is. There's not much time. I wanted to do sort of like an activity, find somebody here who can talk, who can unmute themselves. Let's do just like a quick scenario and figure out where your business is and how long can it take you, or how fast can you get to, let's say, hypothetically, 500 million, $1 billion in revenue, right? But I don't think we have that time. We'll be here for almost 2 hours. So the entire session is supposed to be 2 hours.
Wow. Incredible. Thank you so much. Please, let's all give our speakers and facilitators a digital round of applause. This has been nothing short of incredible. So many nuggets that has been dropped. So many. Let me quickly state that the replay is available on my YouTube channel, so you can go on Oladipupo Clement. It's actually being streamed live as we speak, right? So I'm sure some people will be watching that. Yeah. So before we progress, these two gentlemen, they are heavyweights in their respective fields, and I want to strongly recommend that you say a thing or two about what you have in your portfolio right now that's going on that people can take advantage of. I know. So who wants to go first?
I'm selling tickets, yo.
Strategy conference. Go ahead.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I do have an event in 27th, 28th of November. It's usually sort of like our biggest event in the year. So the focus, the reason why that event exists for us is, if you look at our community, we have a community of about 4,000 businesses. And the way we divide the community is in sort of three ways. There's the people that we call small businesses. In our own community, small business is a business that is from idea stage. I still have an idea, I want to start, to your first 50 million a year in revenue. Then we have, for those people, everything we do for those people is free. We don't charge them for anything, after the community stretch factory and the likes. Then we have a community of people that have exceeded their first 50 million, but they haven't hit $1 billion yet. And then we have the third community of people, who have exceeded $1 billion, maybe multiples and the likes. But then I see that there's a fourth category of people, because a lot of these people in our community who have also done, billions and billions, are at stages where we're trying to fix the structure. They're in high growth industries, so it's easy to do a couple of things, but this, so the convention is actually for that fourth level of conversation where, we're bringing someone like an Ola Brown, who is an early stage investor, to help people understand, how do you prepare your business for investment, and how do you transit from being an entrepreneur to being somebody that can actually analyze and invest in businesses, right? We're bringing people like Itunu Akiware. Itunu Akiware grew a business. I mean, she's one of our clients. She has, of all of our clients, maybe with an exception of a particular client we work with this year, I've seen them go through the fastest growth. I mean, I've seen a business move from 100 million in revenue to 22 billion naira revenue by year 4, sort of year 3 going into year 4. And I've been a part of the, tons of structural changes, hiring and firing, upskilling, retooling, all that kind of stuff. So how do you structure a high growth business? Because it's one thing for a business to grow. It's another for a business to transform really, really fast, and the ability for you to be able to structure on the go for a very, very high growth business. They grew 3,600% in 1 year, 100 million to 3.6 billion, in one calendar year. So because we want to be able to get these bigger conversations to happen. And more than that, people who then come to the event become an integral part of our community. We have a year-long activity that we do with them. So anybody who's interested in at least figuring out about that, I don't know how, maybe they send a message to, I would type the number. I'll type it. I can find this 8883, I think. I believe this is the number, 9,883. So if you send a message to that number, just a message, it'll get me. I would call you personally. Unlike Eizu, me, I don't have a problem with calls. I like calls.
So if you want to hear his voice, personal touch, you already have a contact. So reach out to that number straight away. Eizu, over to you, sir.
Thank you very much, sir.
Okay.
Eizu, don't transform. You're going for one bit.
If you notice, Superman has turned back to Bruce. Superman has turned back to Batman has turned back to Bruce Wayne. Yeah. It's TK Onya's book launch. So I'm going for it at Latana. I don't know if so
yeah, I remember.
One of our projects. It's been 4 years deep. Yeah, I think Tony did the forward, and I think he'll be there. Hey. Right. So yes, sorry, I have to go. My name is Eizu, like you guys know. Business and management consulting. My core is in corporate restructuring and startups. Right. I spent 14 years doing this. We're behind at least over 100 plus brands. I sit on multiple boards, and I'm always willing to be a part of your growth process as well. I have something called Breakfast with Eizu. It happens once a month at the Eco Hotel and Suites. I have another, I even have next week, but that's in Port Harcourt. I'm off to Port Harcourt next week. So yes, if you want to attend or you want to just sit down with us in terms of corporate restructuring, strategy setup, that's really what my core is. So I'll just drop my number because I need to run now, right? And I already gave a hint. A WhatsApp is fine, right? So thank you, guys. Mr. Clement, thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
I deeply appreciate you. That's why we're here.
Thank you very much. This is great one for me. Thank you so much. Before I actually thought that people would have questions they would need answers to, but since you are in a hurry, you can leave. Myself and
you know what? I'll be in the car. Okay. If you just in case, I'll be in the car, but I'll just turn on. I don't have to turn on my video. So
okay then. So excellent. So thank you very much. So just in case you have questions, please feel free to questions. Do not forget these numbers. I met Eizu at his own program 2014. I heard him on what's this guy's name now? I can't remember. The guy's Charles B. Yes, Charles B. That was where I got to know about Eizu. You know, when he was talking of Marvins, talking of sneezers and all of those things, and people with platforms, I could tell exactly those were exact same steps he took. You know, yeah. So, and listening to him on radio those days, I felt like, who is this guy? You know, from where to where and all of that. That was how I attended his Xavier masterclass, and it's been a great relationship ever since. And of course, I've known Ezekiel Solesi for way back. I didn't hear him on radio. I heard him physically, like this. So, and I knew that. And these guys were going, and they've all evolved over the years. You know, as things were changing, they kept changing, and that for me is a testament to resilience, you know, tenacity, consistency, doggedness. You know, doing business anywhere in the world is tough, but doing it even in Nigeria is tougher. It's tougher. So, in fact, should I say toughest? Right. So that's pretty much what it has been. So please take advantage of this. And just in case you're just joining this conversation, I want to recommend that you can watch the replay. In fact, if you were part of this all along, I still recommend that you go watch the replay on our YouTube. So I love the fact that we changed the dynamics of this program to a fireside chat. So there were a lot of concept and different perspectives that was dropped. You really, really want to go watch the replay. It's on my YouTube channel. And if you're not following me on YouTube, you can subscribe right away and turn on the notification button every Saturday. In fact, every week we drop content there. Also, I have an event called the Mega Housing Summit. I'm a real estate expert also. And whether you want to be a developer, you want to be a realtor, you want to be an investor, or even be a regulator, I've got something that can help you. But we are hosting this particular event, and it's been on for like three weeks. This Saturday is the final lap of that program, and I want to strongly recommend. It's free, it's online, starting 7 p.m. West African time later today, and then 2 p.m. EST for those of you who will be joining in America, Canada, and the rest. Okay, so that is on that. Today we'll be hosting my very revered mentor, Dr. Olumide Emmanuel, and it's going to be powerful. It's going to be powerful. So if you are looking at land banking or you want to buy property, I'm going to be sharing on benefits of buying properties off plan. It's going to be off the hook. Don't miss it for any reason. Okay. And like I said, when I was going to introduce why we had this business link, it wasn't part of the original plan. It was one of my team members who said, why don't we host a business clinic and bring these two of your friends? And I said, fantastic, that's a good one. The reason for that, the Winning in Business series was what we conceived for people to win in their respective businesses. Business can be very, very challenging. Business can be very, very demanding. It's emotionally draining, physically tasking, you can be in AC, air-conditioned office and still be sweating because of the intense pressure that you have to deal with, and then you have to be able to rack your head, around so many things simultaneously. And then, when Ezekiel was talking earlier, talking about you can have people who are available but are not capable. You can have people who are capable but not loyal. And then you can also have, when you have people who are capable and loyal at the same time, you have all men most blessed. And these are critical things. But to have that, it takes a lot. And it means that some people will have to pause their own life of some sort to serve your own vision and all of that. But I love the direction that the conversation went today. And I'm sure that we all have derived value. So if you missed on any of the Winning in Business sessions, please, I want to recommend you can also go watch the replay. Oh, I think those replays are actually not made available, but do well to join our community, a tribe of wealthy origin. I've said it time and again, poor people move in communities, right? Rich people also move in communities. We know ourselves, right? So it's always good that you join a community of forward-thinking, forward-looking individuals. So if you are wondering where do we need to go, just send a message to 0708 797 0441, 0708 797 0441. And you'll be glad you did. You can send a WhatsApp, you can send a text message, right? I wrote this book a while back, Financial Freedom Master Guide. If you don't have a copy of this book, then you're doing yourself an injustice. I want to recommend, if you live or work in Nigeria, then you can place order for this book just by sending interested or so to that same number. Just mention this book. You can call that number to place order and to be delivered to you for free anywhere in Nigeria. I didn't say it is free. I said it will be delivered for free because someone took me on that and said, you said you were going to give it for free. No, I didn't say it's for free. I said delivered for free, shipping free. All right. If you live outside of Nigeria or work outside Nigeria, then this is the copy. You'll find this on Amazon. So do well to place order for that. So I think we have questions. Do we have questions? If you have any questions, please feel free to ask your questions. It's been an exciting one so far. It's been really, really, really. Any question?
We have one question.
Sorry, we would appreciate that you drop your questions. We wouldn't want to take voice just to keep, because usually those kind of questions that are voiced often give back to more questions, and then the whole thing will extend longer than necessary. So please permit me to request that you type your questions, right? That's the only one that we will take. We won't take voiced, verbalized questions. Forgive me, but that's how we're going to do this one for now. Okay? We're sorry about that.
There are two questions in the chat box.
Okay.
I think the first one is for you.
The
Which
first
one
one
is for me?
I see is for Simon. It's from Simon Peter. He said, how do we join your community?
We can't hear you.
Okay, I think it was Simon Peter that said that.
Yes, Simon Peter.
You join the community when you pay for any of our events. So, for example, the one that is happening in November. Anytime somebody gets into any of our events, they're admitted into the community. But I think the first one is the one we should answer, the one by Azak. It has to do with real estate.
Yes, but that says good afternoon, Mr. Clement. Good afternoon, Mr. Ezekiel. Got to address the business related to real estate.
You're not clear at all. So let me go through it. Let me go through it. So I joined late. how do I develop my idea to ensure it comes alive and grow as a business? And most of it requires large fund to start.
Doesn't.
Dr. Ezekiel, can you speak to that? I have loads and stuff to share with him, but go ahead, please.
I think the first thing first is that you need to find somebody that you can learn from, because you just said it requires large funds to start, and it doesn't. I mean, there are people. I mean, Dr. Clement can tell you of how many people he's probably even worked with that started their real estate business with nothing. In business you buy and sell, but if the conditions are right and you're smart enough, you can sell and buy. Right? So you can. So I think that's the first thing, is that you need to. You've made an assumption about the industry that is not very accurate, and Dr. Clement has, and by the way, I'm not a doctor, but they never give me doctor. So just me as so that my helper of destiny will not go and made it, so that this can be going the way it's supposed to.
So thank you very much. I love the way you coined it. In some most instances, people buy and sell, but if the conditions are right, you can actually sell and buy. The idea is actually that's actually the way it's supposed to be. You're actually supposed to define who your ideal customers are and then create a product that fits them. And the biggest mistake we make as entrepreneurs is that we create product and then begin to look for people who fit for those products. And that's a big, it can be very, 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 it can be a major, it's a costly mistake that we make. I was listening to Ross Bronson recently, and he was saying something about that most businesses that fail, they don't fail because they don't have brilliant ideas or they don't have a brilliant team. Is that before their ideas came to life, they ran out of resources to continue to drive it. That's really what kills on businesses. So let me give you a very important strategy. Number one, we started our business without a dime. So a clear example, our business is worth multiple billions. So I can tell you that one for free. You don't need money, right? You need sense. You need ideas. Yes, there's a point where money will play a critical role, and that's another conversation for another time. But let me quickly state that in this business called real estate, there are 4 ways you can play. You can play as a regulator, right? Where you work in conjunction with government agencies, where you collaborate with government agencies to provide a policy framework on how the industry can operate or should function. That is one level. And there's money to be made there, particularly if you have the political will and you have the connections. So you need to join a political party, right? For that to now, or you have people who are in political parties. Okay. Number 2 is you can play as a developer, and this is by far the most glamorous one, right? But it's the most, it may sound very unkind, but it is the most challenged way to play in the real estate space. Yes, that's the plain truth, right? In fact, it pays to play as a private developer. Just build 4 units, and then when you finish building, you sell it, and all of those. Sometimes it pays just to be a sole. Well, let me not go into that right now, because the industry to a very, very large extent is highly commoditized, and there is not much extra value you can add that somebody else somewhere may not already be adding, otherwise will be considered out of price range. So, but that's another conversation. And I truly wish I could go on and on, but time is really not our friend. And like I said, today's conversation is not really about me speaking. But since the question borders on my territory, being a developer is not is one of those ways, and you require deep pockets, to play there. But I actually recommend that even if you have all the money in this world, the cheapest way, right, by which you can play in the real estate space is by being a realtor, right? That way you are able to sell for others. That way you're also able to glean the route to market, right? And then of course you have a basket of, products that you can start to sell from day one. So you don't need billions upon billions to start selling. From day one, you already have inventory worth billions because you are already selling for other developers. And that way, you can begin to build your own reputation and begin to build your strategy. Of course, the number 4 way is by being an investor. And by being an investor, everybody has to be an investor if you want to create wealth and retain wealth. So, so being a realtor is a smarter way. It's like by being a realtor, you are doing the front end of your business, because ultimately, even when you start as a developer, you still need to sell, right? You still need to sell the products. You still need to market the product. So why not start from the front end and then backward integrate into production, right? Into development, right? So which is really my recommendation. Anytime, this whole idea of I want to just jump in and start, go and see all the people who are trailblazers in the industry, right? They started out by selling for others. So there they were able to decipher what works, what does not work, why is it done a particular way, and a host of other things. And then there are many questions that you will never find in any book. There are many questions, there are many research you will never be able to conduct and you can't Google some issues in Nigeria, particularly if you are operating in Nigeria. This one is red, you have to just be right there in the field. And like I often say, 24-hour classroom training cannot compare with field training. There are some lessons you will never learn in class. It's in the field you will learn it. Well, I hope that makes sense or have that added value. He said, please, how do you go about it for the idea of business and growing? So the same thing even applies for all other industries. I hope you recognize that even Dangote did not start out with manufacturing.
Yes.
He started with distribution. He started out with haulage. It started out trading. It started out, importing. So the things he was importing are now the things he's producing manufacturing, right? So he didn't start, because if he was to start out with manufacturing, it would not be funny. So he first established the distribution system. It literally owns the distribution network for any good in Nigeria, in Africa, by extension, so, and going into, I listened to his interview with Al Jazeera a while back, and he was saying that, he said, even their consumption of diesel alone was enough case for why they went into building a refinery. That when they look at the consumption of Dangote Industries alone, of diesel alone, it was enough business for the refinery, much less external demand. Do you understand what I'm talking about? So what they did, so they were backward integrating. They were backward integrating into manufacturing. And so if you start out from the back end, it means you must have everything figured out to forward integrate. So I recommend the other way, particularly if you do not have that much resource.
I want to take permission to leave. I'm babysitting my two boys out. So
that's
for the last,
I think
when it's quiet, and that it's very bad when it's very quiet. So I need to go downstairs and go.
Thank you very much. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. This has been really wonderful. Thank you so much. Deeply appreciate. All right. So thank you very much, everyone. I want to believe that I've answered that question to the best of my ability, and I believe it has added value. Mr. Razak, what would you classify as the most important element in branding? The people who are talking branding, they are not here again. No. I wish we took their questions first. Okay, so I think the first element and the most important element, if you ask me, is trust. And I think deliver something that people can go to sleep. So both the quality of the product and then the experience that people have in dealing with your organization, right? I think that's what's most important. And it goes a long way to touch more on the attitude of the team behind, and then the response time. That's for me is the key thing. All right, so somebody's asking, how can I build a personal brand that is niche-based, like what Mr. Ezekiel had said, to attract the kind of customer that you want? What is the most important factor? I wish they are here to answer those questions. But you know what you can do? For those of you who are in the community, Tribe of Wealthy Origin, please drop your questions. We'll forward to them. Drop your questions in the communities, and then we'll forward those questions to them. And then the one that concerns me, I will also take them later on. Thank you. Thank you to John Aide. Thank you so much, Mr. Tosin Dejanwo. All right, so that will be all for today. And so please do not miss out on registering or participating at the Mega Housing Summit taking place later today. And then all will be well. Bye for now, everyone, and God bless you. So the WhatsApp group link is there, so you can click it and join the group immediately. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, everyone.